tell me.
I was interested in the idea of telling a story where there's a question of whether the ends justify the means, and I started thinking about how to find that kind of story, and I just started looking at a lot of source material, biblical source material and historical stories, and I feel like there's a lot of richness there and depth of storytelling and a lot of opportunities to create a story that has modern resonance.
So we set that story in a war-torn world and made Tamar have this mission to bring peace to two warring lands. And as she pursues this very noble goal, she makes ever more questionable choices.
Great, once more. Where? He runs at her. Tamar raises the pistol and fires. The first I ever heard Tamar of the River, it was just the last 10 minutes of music, and the music existed in a way that I hadn't heard music for theater exist in a really long time, and I was so taken by it.
It's like Marissa has written what water sounds like, which seems like a very odd thing, but when you have 8 or so, or 10 or 12 voices all coming in and bubbling and singing, to me, when I'm singing with them, it feels a very kind of out-of-body experience, which I've never had.
Tamar is the story of a young woman who has the opportunity to save the world.
In the world of Tamar, the two lands at war are divided by a blood-red river. The river very literally sings to people. What God is saying is usually not clear until Tamar feels that she has been called as God's prophet and starts interpreting the voice of the river to the people around her.
And the twists and turns in the music, whether the river is warning her, coaxing her along, and then eventually she has this beautiful moment where she sees the source of the river, and the music completely shifts, and it's almost as if you can see it by hearing it.
Marissa's a really incredible collaborator, and she works so differently than many composers. She really has her own sort of technique of music.
I'm very interested in just voice and human voice as an expression of the human being.
Marissa wanted to start vocal work as soon as possible. We worked on her style of vocal freedom, which was very scary for me and very new.
So the act of communication through sound, whether it's speaking or making a sound like ha 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 ha, or making sounds, or how do we use our whole body, our whole human faculties to create sound.
I would love for an audience to enter the world of Tamar and come into the theater and find themselves in a world that is slightly different from our own, but a little bit familiar as well. To enter a world that is purely born of theatrical imagination and of storytelling. And
people do right things for the wrong reasons and wrong things for the right reasons, and that simple stories don't always have simple explanations.
if we are to look at problems with our world, having one person make a difference is a really extraordinary thing to do.
So how can we stay true to a vision that we have without getting pulled down into something ugly? Yeah, that's interesting to me.
But she at one point sings out the words, "I see." And all of a sudden, everything in the world becomes totally clear through these two words and two notes. And that's what musicals do, is through the simplest gestures allow for these large themes to come barreling across the stage.